Warning: some viewers might find the topics discussed in this video upsetting, offensive and or disturbing. The jordanxbrookes channel does not condone any acts of terrorism. If you are someone who easily feels upset, offended and or disturbed, click off the video now. Thank you.
126 actual. Target is in the main house. You have execute authority.
Bravo 6. Going dark.
How's it going, troops? Jordan here, back again with another Call of Duty Modern Warfare Loadout video. In today's loadout video, we are going to be shifting to the dark side of the force. No, not quite Star Wars, but we are going to be playing as one of the enemy factions from the Modern Warfare campaign, Al-Qatala. And yes, that's how it's pronounced in Arabic or Al-Arabiya. Al-Qatala play a huge part in the new Modern Warfare storyline, from stealing chemical weapons, committing terror attacks and now invading Russia, led by one Khalid al-Assad, to set up the story for the Modern Warfare sequel. And they are definitely a militant group worthy of a loadout. So make sure you give this video a thumbs up and hit subscribe, and without further ado, let's take a look at our mission briefing. This is going to be a class setup depicting a terrorist insurgent working for Al-Qatala. We're going to be using guerrilla warfare tactics to hit our enemies hard. And lastly, we're going to be torturing hostiles with biological warfare and firepower. Al-Qatala are very similar to the Op 4 faction back in Call of Duty 4. They are a militant insurgent group led by the Wolf and based in Urzikstan and the Middle East. And their objective goal is to strike terror and fear into those that oppose their regime and those countries who have invaded Urzikstan to steal their resources and cripple its people and economy. Al-Qatala is meant to represent the real-life militant groups we see and hear on the news and in documentaries, such as Al-Qaeda, ISIS and the Taliban, who seek to cause pain, death and suffering through their own psychotic minds and twisting religion to fit their agenda and cause. Invasions and terrorist attacks have been happening for centuries, but for the last 7 years we have seen a big rise in these plots and attacks, especially in places like the Middle East, France, Belgium, the United States of America, and my home soil, the United Kingdom. Some conspirators say these groups are funded by Islamic organisations, while others say it's nations like the US, UK, China and Russia who fund these groups. I don't think we'll ever know the truth to this, but what we do know is that everyone sadly pays the price one way or another. Many people have preconceptions from what they see on the news and immediately link religion to these attacks, and it has led to huge percentages of far-right hate towards Muslims and people of colour. The truth is that these terrorist groups kill more Muslims than anyone else, and they thrive off people turning against each other. I'm putting this out there that, as a Muslim myself, these barbaric scum of the earth do not represent me or my beliefs. In the Modern Warfare campaign, Al-Qatala steal biochemical weapons and use it to attack innocent civilians in the West. Their most notable attack in the game is during the mission Piccadilly, where they set off an explosive van which killed and injured lots of people, and sleeper cells began to open fire on civs, took some hostage and even strapped suicide vests to themselves to cause the most damage and hurt as possible. It's a very over the top and horrific mission, but that's the reality a lot of people face in today's world. It doesn't matter what leader you assassinate, what group you diminish, what agenda you erase. Hate will always exist in this world, and it's this hate that will ensure blood will continue to be spilt. So let's start off this loadout by taking a look at our primary weapon that we're going to be equipping. Al-Qatala primarily use the AK-47 in Modern Warfare, and are seen wielding this weapon in many of the missions in the campaign. While this is generally a stereotypical weapon used by terrorist forces that we see in films, TV shows and documentaries, there are many Kalashnikov variants used in combat by militant groups throughout the Middle East. For this loadout, we're going to be handling our own custom-made AK-47 rifle, one used for quickness and hit and run attacks. So let's take a look and equip some attachments for our modified AK-47. For our first attachment, we're going to be choosing a muzzle, and the muzzle that I've gone for is the flash guard. Al-Qatala are seen using concealed fire in the Piccadilly mission, when Kyle Garrick struggles to spot window and rooftop fire. The flash guard conceals that annoying muzzle flash at the end of our barrel, which keeps our line of sight visible when firing, so the flash guard will be our first attachment. For our second attachment, we're going to be choosing a stock, and the stock that I've gone for is actually no stock. Because we're using guerrilla warfare when out in the wild, we want a powerful weapon that's as light as possible. Removing the AK-47 stock not only increases our movement speed, but also our aim down sight speed as well. It does come at a slight cost of aim stability and recoil control, but we can make up for this later. For our third attachment, we're going to be choosing a weapon perk, and the weapon perk that I've gone for is Frangible Disabling. We want to deal as much firepower to our enemies as we can, and the Frangible Disabling perk slows down enemy movement whenever we fire bullets into them, and also disables their tactical sprint when we shoot at their legs, so Frangible Disabling will be our third attachment. For our fourth attachment, we're going to be choosing a rear grip, and the rear grip that I've gone for is the rubberized grip tape. This grip tape gives us better control over the AK-47's recoil and just helps to counter the deficits of having no stock. And lastly, for our fifth attachment, we were choosing an underbarrel, and the underbarrel that I've gone for is the Merc foregrip. This foregrip furthers our control over the weapon's recoil and also increases our accuracy when firing from the hip. This foregrip is specifically designed for those hit and run tactics used in guerrilla warfare, and so that is why the Merc foregrip will be our fifth and final attachment. So those are going to be our attachments for the AK-47. Now let's move on to our secondary weapon of choice for this loadout. Insurgents typically use rocket launchers as a means of causing maximum effective damage from the explosive blasts. These blasts can be that great that buildings crumble to dust within seconds and their opposition incinerated before they can even react. It's a disturbing sight to picture, I know, but militant groups like Al-Qatala enjoy seeing the West suffer in pain. One rocket launcher that again is stereotypical of terrorists is the RPG, or Rocket Propelled Grenade Launcher. These launchers are easy to obtain and used by insurgent groups in the East, and in Modern Warfare, the RPG-7 is one of the deadliest weapons in the game, with such an incredibly devastating blast radius that will have your enemy's body parts flying. Many players have deemed this weapon overpowered, and even I myself get annoyed when a little Jimmy fires one of these rockets in my vicinity. So just for the maximum effective damage, the RPG-7 will be our secondary weapon. And since we can't equip any attachments onto the RPG-7, let's move forward and take a look at our perks and equipment that we're going to be selecting. For our first tier perk, we're going to be choosing Double Time. Since we're going to be using guerrilla tactics by rushing our enemies and escaping the crime scene, we want to be fast and agile so government intelligence and armed police don't track us down and catch us. Double Time increases our tactical sprint duration time so we can run in and out of engagements as quickly and swiftly as possible, so we'll go with Double Time as our tier 1 perk. For our second tier perk, we'll be choosing Ghost. It took years for the US government to track down and kill Osama bin Laden, and it also took years before members of NATO tracked down ISIS leaders in remote parts of Syria and Iraq. In Modern Warfare, Al-Qatala and their ex-leader Omar Suleiman, aka the Wolf, was hard for Price and his team to track down as they hid in safe houses, planted false leads and used sleeper cells to carry out attacks. Ghost puts the enemy's minimap to sleep whenever they call in a UAV, as it keeps us hidden off their radar and gives us a chance to strike before running back to our safe house. So Ghost is going to be our tier 2 perk. And lastly, for our third tier perk, we're going to be choosing Amped. Insurgents have to make quick maneuvers if they want to overcome enemy forces or commit high kill counts on civilians. Amped lets us swap our primary and secondary weapons much faster, speeds up equipment usage and also decreases the time it takes to reload rockets into our RPG-7. Whether we're shooting up a capital city or firing explosives at hostile vehicles and helicopters, we have faster and better reflexes to power through our targets, so Amped will be our tier 3 and final perk. Speaking of explosives, moving on now to our equipment. For our lethal equipment, I have chosen the C4. C4 explosives are seen strapped to suicide vests on various Al-Qatala fighters in the Modern Warfare campaign, who then move into crowded areas and blow themselves up along with the lives of the innocent. This piece of explosive equipment goes hand in hand with the RPG-7 and fits the terrorist theme of this loadout, so the C4 explosive will be our lethal equipment. And for our tactical equipment, we're going to go with the gas grenade. In the Modern Warfare campaign, Al-Qatala used toxic gas to torture and kill their enemies with. The gas grenade in Modern Warfare multiplayer is meant to be tear gas, but has this chlorine colour spewing out the canister. When this grenade hits the ground, it immediately explodes on impact, and anyone caught in the gas cloud radius will see their screen blur, their aim and movement disorientate, and their character coughing their guts up. So the gas grenade will be our tactical equipment. So now that we've talked about our perks and equipment, it's time to finish off this loadout by taking a look at our field upgrade of choice and our selection of 3 kill streaks. For our field upgrade, I have chosen stopping power. Being a militant warfighter, we want to deal as much bullet damage as we can to our enemies. Stopping power rounds increase our bullet damage for a single magazine use and lets us pierce harshly through our foes, so we'll choose stopping power as our field upgrade. Moving on now to our 3 selected kill streaks. For our first kill streak, I have chosen the shield turret. Out in the Middle East, militant fighters are seen using machine gun turrets on the backs of SUVs, on the roofs of buildings and propped up against window ledges. The loud fire of machine guns can suppress and startle their enemies, and they would be lucky to escape its line of sight if they're not dead already. In Modern Warfare multiplayer, we have the shield turret, which provides us with a shielded machine gun and a red dot sight for precise targeting, so we'll choose this as our first kill streak. For our second kill streak, we're going to be choosing the cluster strike. Mortars are again used by militant groups to drop explosive shells onto hostile areas, since these rebel fighters don't have access to the likes of bomber aircraft and fighter jets. In Modern Warfare, the cluster strike lets us use a laser pointer to designate a target zone to fire these mortars onto. If you play on small maps like Shipment or Rust, you can rack up a pretty high kill count from this, so we'll choose the cluster strike as our second kill streak. And finally, for our third kill streak, we're going to be choosing white phosphorus. While biological warfare is a real thing that has been used in war before, Al-Qatala in Modern Warfare steal chlorine gas and plot to use it to poison, torture and kill the West in one of the most disturbing, gruesome and horrific ways possible. In Modern Warfare multiplayer, we have a biological kill streak in the game for the very first time, and there's probably a reason for that. That kill streak is white phosphorus, and phosphorus gas has been reportedly used against Syrian civilians in the past, and the devastating and heartbreaking effects this chemical gas has on humans is something you'd only want to see if you were a psychopath. When called in, a jet with white phosphorus canisters strafes over the map and drops these canisters onto our enemies, our teammates and even ourselves. The map turns to fog and anyone caught up in the canister line will choke on the gas and burn to their deaths. Combining our weaponry, perks, equipment, field upgrade and kill streaks, fight to remove all foreign power from our soil, fight without sorrow, and wage war without any sympathy. So troops, that wraps up my Al-Qatala loadout video for Modern Warfare. Next time you boot up Modern Warfare multiplayer, definitely give this class setup a try in game and have a blast being an Al-Qatala Insurgent. If you did enjoy this loadout video, then do give the video a thumbs up, I would appreciate it a lot. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, then why haven't you? Hit subscribe and also hit the bell notification icon next to it, so that way you're always notified as to when I make an upload. If you have any friends who might be interested in this sort of content, then make sure to share the video around with them to help give my channel and my loadout videos more widespread exposure. And if you want to see behind the scenes previews of my loadout videos, you can follow me on Twitter at jordanxbrookes for all the latest on there. Keep an eye out for more military themed loadouts and more playstyle loadouts in the near future. I've read some of your loadout requests on Twitter and here on YouTube, so expect to see them over the next few weeks. So until the next video, I thank you all for watching, stay true to me troops, and I'll see you in game.